So I thought I'd bring you down here and to the woods again today. So I wanted to address a few things, a couple comments, a YouTube video, and again talk about my well. As I have said many times, my well appears to get dirty every time this time of year. And I've tried everything that I can think of to keep it from getting dirty, but when we have these long saturating rains, the water comes out discolored. Well, this year I've noticed that when I put water in a bucket and I let it sit in the bucket for 24 hours, you take your finger, it's a white bucket, and you swipe the bottom of the bucket, there's no streaking. The dirt has not settled to the bottom. Every other year that has happened. So what has changed this year? Why is the dirt not settling? So I've been doing all kinds of research trying to understand what's going on. Well, I guess there is some disadvantages to not socializing. There are a ton of advantages, and I will take advantage of those advantages all the time, every day of the week. I am not a people person. People have drove me away from people. But today, just by chance, I met someone. I don't know his name. I don't know if you even call it met someone. He was walking down the road. Now, no one ever walks down the road here. And I said, he waved hi, and I said, hi. I said, wow, I've never seen anybody walking. He says, yeah, I just thought I'd take an extended walk. Well, he noticed I was filling a bucket of water. He says, aren't you that guy that doesn't have electric? Ooh, deer droppings. Look at that. Wow, love it. I said, oh no, I don't tie to the grid. I have electric. I said, I got solar panels. So he says, you just use the buckets for water? I said, oh no. No, right now I'm looking at my water. There was more droppings there. There are deer everywhere here. Look at that. That's cool. So I said, no. It appears my well has gotten dirty, and I'm putting water in the bucket to see how dirty it is and if my filters are getting the dirt out and all that. And he says, are you sure it's dirt? I said, well, I don't know what it is. It's discolored. And I explained to him about putting my hand down the bottom after 24 hours and streaking my finger across. He says, yeah, don't worry about it, you're fine. He says, everybody around here has that problem this time of the year. He says, he thinks what's happening is the water gets down underground into the bedrock from the rains and it discolors it. Everybody has tested around here, their wells, everybody, and they always come up where it's drinkable. He says, we filter our water at our house. He said, most people probably do around here, but you don't even have to filter it. You could drink it right out of that bucket. And I said, so you would take a handful of this? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't make him do it, but you know, I don't let people on the property. That kind of relieved me. It appears I really have solved my well issues. And what I'm doing now is trying to fight something that's not fightable. I'm feeling a lot better about the well. I got a comment in the comment section, and I've addressed this in previous videos, but a lot of times I don't address it. And so when I say something in a video, it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I have addressed it. My pump is a 110 volt pump. Most well pumps are 220. And the reason is twofold. Pump has to have more power. Well, it's actually one. It's all in one, actually. The pump has to have more power than my pump, the deeper it goes. The deeper the well goes, the more it has to push up, and the heavier that water gets. So my well is a 100-foot well, 130-foot well. So the pressure and the weight of that is about 30 psi, maybe 40. It's actually 30 psi at 69 feet. So let's just call it 40 pounds at 100 feet. These are all estimated numbers. Well then, if you drop your well pump down 400 feet, that means your well pump has to, let's just 4 times, that'd be 160 psi, 160 pounds of pressure your pump has to push up. So in order to do that, you need more power. It's all about wattage. So you can't put a 110 pump down in the well and get more than 10-15 amps out of it, probably 15 amps. I think my well pump is 800 watts, so volts times amps. So 800 watts, that's about 8 amps, 8 or 9 amps that my well is pushing or pulling or taking my well pump. But when you need more power, you can't add more amps because it would end up burning up the wiring going down into the well. So my well is 100 feet, so I have 100 foot of wire. If you have 400 feet, you need 400 foot of wire. So you would burn it up, too many amps. And your pump just doesn't pull more amps, it just pulls what it is maxed out at. So with a 220 volt pump, you can still put 9 amps on it, and then you would get double the wattage. So mine is 800 watts, but a 220 would be 1600 watts. I know I'm kind of rounding the numbers a little bit, it's not exact, but you get the point. The 220 doubles your wattage with the same amount of amps, and you don't burn up your wire. So the other day I said, if you get a place like this, if at all possible, get a 110 volt pump so you can run it on your generator with these little generators that I got. And somebody kind of corrected me, not really, but kind of. He wanted to get a 110 volt pump, but he couldn't because his well is 400 feet. And he's right, my pump wouldn't push it. It would push it, it would just be very slow coming out. My pump is 13 gallons a minute, I think. So even if I got thicker wire to handle the amps going that distance, it would slow the well down, let's just say 5 gallons a minute, which would be fine with me, I wouldn't care. So he went and got a 220 volt pump, and he said he couldn't run it off generator. Well, you can get one of those big industrial strength generators, 5,000 watt, and they have a 220 hookup on them. A lot of these RVs use these generators, and the RVs are 220, 30 amps, and I don't know, 50 amps. You can get them, and it's probably cheaper than my generator, to be honest. My generator's a inverter type, whereas the industrial strength are just generators. So I just wanted to say that video, I should have clarified a little bit better about the depth of your well, the flow rate and the amperage and the wire and all that. I didn't, so I was wrong in that video, but that doesn't mean I have been wrong all along. I just didn't address it that time, so I apologize. And then there's one other thing. I've gotten probably 24 emails about this today, and the first 10 emails I'm like, why do I even care? This doesn't make sense to me. I just don't care. But then after a while I got to thinking about it and I thought, well, maybe my audience cares, so I want to address this. So when we were nomads, there was this guy on YouTube, and he's kind of like the grandfather of nomadic life. He started this nonprofit business to get donations so people who wanted to live out in the desert could get a van for free from this organization, fixed up, ready to go and live nomadic lifestyle. He has always encouraged people to live in the desert. So a lot of people, including myself, I guess, has called him Moses. Moses led people out into the desert. Well, that's what this guy does. He led a bunch of people out in the desert. The problem is, in January, he leads all these people out every year. The party lasts for 2 weeks. He leaves, goes to a different desert. But But the people he invited can't leave. They have no gas money. They have no resources. Because he told everybody it's free, it's cheap, you don't need to eat, you don't need to drink. All you need to do is live and be happy. That really is kind of the mindset that he gives. So I know people who have died out in the desert. One from dehydration, had no money to get out of the desert. He didn't have any gas and couldn't get any water. The other one died from cancer. He got sick, didn't have enough money to get home, so his only choice was to live in the desert until he died. So I didn't always agree, well, I never agreed with this guy. And when I started disagreeing with him, I started talking about the downsides of nomadic life. There's a lot of problems with living nomadic. Constantly looking for water, constantly looking for a place to live. I mean, I got out of it before the pandemic because a lot of these places just shut down and they didn't have any place to go. A lot of these nomads ended up buying property to park their RVs on. Several of these YouTube channels did that. But this guy continuously talks about how great it is to live in the desert, that everybody needs to do it. Well, he bought 20 acres. And so everybody's telling me he bought 20 acres and it doesn't have a well. First of all, the well, it doesn't matter. The well thing just doesn't bother me. He said he has a public access well, a community well, that's never going to run out of water. Which, if he wants to go get water, I mean, that a lot of people do that. I don't want to do that. I did it for too long. I don't want to do it anymore. But if you have regular access to water, even if you got to go get it, it's not that big of a deal. As a matter of fact, that natural spring down there, which I should have mentioned, that guy even said, if you go down to that natural spring, you know, he said my well was discolored. He says, you get water out of that right now, it's discolored too. So I didn't even think of that. So yeah, I mean, I've seen it cloudy before. So makes sense. But if you got access to water, you don't have to go searching for it. You don't have to beg for it or pay for it. Then I would say, well, even if you got to pay for it, I wouldn't want to pay for water. That's just me. But if you feel like you can pay for water, that's fine. But I'm not concerned that he doesn't have a well. What I always say is make sure you have water as your first priority before you live off grid. Now, let's address him buying property. Well, I do think that he has finally come around to good decision making. I would like to bash him and criticize him like he deserves. He brought a lot of people out to the desert and he hurt a lot of people. And over time, he began to realize that he was making a mistake. One of the things I addressed in my video was he was pulling people out there that had mental issues, maybe some sort of disability, maybe some sort of learning disability. Of course, I come from an atmosphere. I used to work in a sheltered workshop where I worked with folks that had these disabilities. But he was bringing these people out, promising them the world, and they had no reason not to believe him. I mean, the guy looks like Moses. Why not? And he was guaranteeing a better life. And then they would get out there and just be. So I addressed that in one of my videos, and he started talking about it a little bit. And I know for a fact that one of his people, because they contacted me, was worried about this mental issue thing. They said, well, what should we do? And I said, well, he needs to stop saying it's great and everybody needs to come out here. You don't need food and water. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. You don't have to worry about a thing. Everything's out here. Well, so he's bought this property and he's going to live there 3 months out of the year. He's bought it for several reasons, in case he gets old and he can't travel anymore, and just all kinds of different reasons. And what I would say is he's learned his lesson. He's learned that you can't live out in the desert. It might be a great romantic dream, but in the end, it's an absolute nightmare. And you can't keep hurting people. I don't appreciate anything he has done for that community. he hurt a lot of people. Nomad life should be about the travel. It should be about seeing beautiful things. It shouldn't be about living in a desert in a car. So I'm glad he's learning. I'm glad he's straightening things up and hopefully correcting the mistakes he's made. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about showing you the well and with the rain and how much rain we were getting. So if I can inspire you to keep working your issues until you find a solution when you're living your dreams. Thanks for watching.